The peaceful spring picnic at Oak Ridge Elementary erupted into chaos as the first killer bee darted through the air, followed by hundreds more. Children's laughter turned to screams as the angry swarm descended upon the playground. Jason Merrick, 62, was watching his granddaughter Sophie play when, as trained, I caught the distinctive flight pattern of the approaching insects. 23 years in Army Special Forces had taught him to recognize threats before they fully materialized. The former Green Beret straightened his back, scanning the environment while other adults continued chatting, oblivious to the danger. "Those aren't regular honeybees," he muttered, noticing their aggressive movement and distinctive coloration. His mind immediately classified them as Africanized killer bees, a deadly threat in this part of rural Texas. The school grounds, normally an idyllic setting with sprawling oak trees and open fields, now presented a tactical nightmare. Nearly 150 children and 50 parents were scattered across the open space with minimal shelter. The nearest emergency services were at least 30 minutes away, and cell reception was spotty at best. Jason watched as a bee landed on 8-year-old Tyler's arm. Before he could warn the boy, the insect stung, followed immediately by several more. The child's scream cut through the ambient noise, drawing everyone's attention and more bees. "Grandpa, what's happening?" Sophie tugged at his sleeve, her eyes wide with fear as the buzzing intensified. Jason's military training kicked in automatically. He quickly assessed available resources. The school building 50 yards away, several buses parked in the lot, lunch tables with umbrellas, and coolers full of ice. His mind was already formulating a plan. While parents began to notice the threat, their faces shifting from confusion to fear. Jason's eyes narrowed as he observed Tyler collapse to his knees, his face swelling rapidly. A severe allergic reaction. The boy's mother screamed for help, attracting more bees while other children began swatting at the air, further agitating the swarm. "Stop swatting." Jason's command voice cut through the growing panic. "Movement attracts them. Everyone freeze where you are." The principal, Mrs. Hernandez, rushed toward Jason, recognizing the authority in his voice. "We have some EpiPens in the nurse's office, but only 3, she said breathlessly. "And the school buses, the drivers are on break." Jason nodded, mentally cataloging this information while scanning the area. His Special Forces training and biological threat assessment was surfacing from memory. The bees' behavior suggested their hive had been disturbed, not a random attack. Their numbers indicated multiple colonies. "The attack pattern suggests the hives are northwest of us," he thought, noting the bees' flight trajectory. "And they're increasing in number." A quick tactical assessment revealed multiple challenges. Children scattered across exposed areas, limited indoor shelter capacity, inadequate medical supplies for potential allergic reactions, and no quick emergency response available. The situation was deteriorating by the second. Jason felt the familiar calm of combat assessment washing over him. In his mind, the playful picnic transformed into a tactical grid, with danger zones, resources, and potential shelter points clearly mapped. "Mrs. Hernandez, do you have access to the kitchen?" he asked. "Yes, I have the master key." "And the buses, can it be opened?" "Yes, emergency protocols." Jason nodded, formulating his plan. "We need to create a safe zone and extract in groups. This is going to get worse before it gets better." As if confirming his assessment, a girl about 20 yards away suddenly shrieked as multiple bees tangled in her long hair. 2 parents rushing to help were immediately swarmed, their panicked movements attracting more attackers. Jason felt Sophie's hand tighten in his. He knelt down to her level, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Remember how I taught you to breathe when you're scared? Just like that. This is just another problem to solve." Inside, his military-trained mind was calculating risks and options. The school building was too far for everyone to reach safely at once. The buses could provide temporary shelter, but were scattered. The kitchen had resources they could use for protection and first aid. Every second spent deliberating meant more stings, more panic, and potentially more severe reactions. He quickly inventoried what they had to work with. Picnic supplies, water coolers, tablecloths, food service items, and the contents of the nearby maintenance shed. His Special Forces training in improvised solutions was already connecting these random items into potential tools. Principal Hernandez, Jason said firmly, we need to establish a command structure now. The situation is escalating, and we have approximately 5 to 7 minutes before this becomes critical. Jason's mind flashed back to his training in Fort Bragg, where his Special Forces unit had conducted exercises on civilian evacuation during biological threats. Minimize exposure, establish safe zones, prioritize extraction of vulnerable individuals. His commander had drilled into them. Those principles would save lives today. Mrs. Hernandez, I need 3 parent volunteers who can remain calm, Jason directed, his voice steady. We're setting up a 3-phase operation. Safe zone creation, grouped evacuation, and medical response. The principal quickly identified 3 adults who weren't panicking. Jason immediately established a simple command structure, assigning each parent a specific responsibility: shelter preparation, medical coordination, and evacuation guidance. Remember pace planning, he told them, falling into military terminology before quickly translating: primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plans for each phase. Jason's first innovative solution came from the picnic supplies. Collect all tablecloths, napkins, and water bottles, he instructed. We're making improvised protective gear. Using techniques learned in desert survival training, he demonstrated how to create makeshift protection. Dampened cloths draped over heads and shoulders, secured with rubber bands from the school supplies. The cafeteria entrance is our primary extraction point, Jason explained, pointing to the side door closest to their position. We'll move in groups of 10, children in the center, adults forming a protective barrier, just like a military diamond formation. One parent, a former high school football coach, immediately understood. Like offensive protection for a quarterback? Exactly, Jason nodded. The kids are our VIPs. Meanwhile, Jason directed 2 fathers to the maintenance shed, describing precisely what to look for. Find spray bottles, dish soap, and any canola oil. Mix 1 part soap, 3 parts water, and a splash of oil. It disrupts the bees' wings without killing them. This formula, something he'd learned during jungle training when dealing with aggressive insects, would be their improvised defense spray. It wasn't standard military issue, but the principle was the same. Use available resources to create tactical advantages. For the most severe cases, Jason implemented a battlefield triage system, prioritizing children showing allergic reactions. Medical team, identify any child with swelling beyond the sting site, difficulty breathing, or dizziness. They're our priority evacuation. Using his tactical communication skills, Jason established a simple hand signal system for the parents. Closed fist for stop, open palm for move, pointing for direction. No shouting unless absolute emergency. It increases panic and attracts more bees. As the first group prepared to move toward the cafeteria, Jason noticed how the younger children were frozen in terror. Drawing from his experience calming civilians in conflict zones, he knelt down. We're playing a special game called Quiet Soldiers. The rules are simple. Stay close, move when the leader moves, and be brave like soldiers. The transformation was immediate. Fear became focused attention as the children embraced their role in the mission. For the buses that would serve as secondary shelter, Jason directed a team to prepare them using another Special Forces technique. Creating a safe corridor. Use the water coolers to wet down the path to the buses. Bees fly less effectively through moisture. When one parent questioned if these impromptu methods would work, Jason's response reflected his military confidence. These aren't theoretical tactics. These are field-tested procedures adapted for our situation. The most impressive application of his military skills came with resource allocation. Just as he'd managed limited supplies and remote operations, Jason calculated exactly how many adults were needed at each position, which children needed priority movement, and how to rotate protectors to minimize the exposure. Conserve the EpiPens for critical reactions only, he instructed the parent with medical training. For moderate reactions, use ice packs from the coolers applied to sting sites for 20-minute intervals. It's a battlefield cooling technique that slows venom spread. As they initiated the first group movement, Jason's military precision was evident in every detail. The formation was tight, movements were coordinated, and his calm commands kept everyone focused despite the terrifying buzz that surrounded them. The evacuation was proceeding according to plan until Mrs. Hernandez rushed back from her reconnaissance with alarming news. There are 2 massive bee colonies along the path to the buses, and they're becoming more aggressive. Jason quickly reevaluated the situation. The established extraction route was now compromised, and several children were still exposed on the playground, including 3 who were already showing signs of moderate allergic reactions. We need to create a diversion, he decided, his mind calculating risks with the precision his Special Forces training had instilled. Without hesitation, he began constructing an improvised protective suit from tablecloths soaked in the soapy mixture, wrapping his head and leaving only his eyes exposed. Continue moving the groups through the cafeteria, he instructed Mrs. Hernandez. I'll redirect the swarm and extract the remaining children. Parents gasped as they realized what he was planning. That's too dangerous, one father protested. Those killer bees can sting through cloth. It's a calculated risk, Jason replied calmly, using the exact terminology from his risk assessment training. And I've survived worse odds. Covering himself in the dampened tablecloths and armed with 2 spray bottles of his improvised bee deterrent, Jason moved deliberately toward the isolated group of children. His movements were slow and purposeful, techniques learned from extracting wounded comrades under fire. Stay absolutely still, he called to the terrified children huddled under a picnic table. I'm coming to you. The bees, attracted to his movement, began to divert toward Jason. He used his tactical advantage, deliberately drawing them away from the path the other groups would take. Hundreds of bees swarmed around him, some penetrating his makeshift protection to deliver painful stings. But he continued moving steadily. Upon reaching the children, Jason demonstrated the true essence of Special Forces training. Grace under extreme pressure. We're going to move together as one unit, he explained, his voice remarkably steady despite the pain of multiple stings. Arms linked, eyes forward, no sudden movements. 10-year-old Emma, paralyzed with fear, couldn't stand. Without breaking stride, Jason lifted her onto his back, just as he carried wounded soldiers, and formed the remaining children into a tight formation around him. The most heart-stopping moment came when little Aiden, already showing signs of an allergic reaction, stumbled and fell. The bees immediately concentrated on the boy. Without hesitation, Jason placed his own body between the child and the swarm, absorbing dozens of stings while helping the boy to his feet. This is just like training, he muttered through gritted teeth, though the Special Forces exercises had never included angry killer bees. His protective instincts, honed through decades of service, didn't distinguish between battlefields and schoolyards. Protecting the vulnerable was hardwired into his being. As they finally reached the safety of the cafeteria, Jason quickly administered first aid to the children with reactions, using ice and elevation techniques learned in field medicine. Despite the dozens of stings he'd sustained, he refused to sit down until every child was accounted for. Military triage, he explained to the astonished parent volunteer as he methodically checked each child. Treat the most severe first, then move down the line. No exceptions. When the emergency responders finally arrived, they found an organized scene instead of chaos. Children being systematically treated, accurate count of injuries, and clear information about who needed immediate transport. The lead paramedic later commented that it was the most organized mass casualty response he'd ever witnessed from civilians. As the last ambulance departed with the few children requiring hospital observation, the cafeteria erupted in spontaneous applause. Jason, now finally receiving treatment for his own numerous stings, simply nodded in acknowledgement, uncomfortable with the attention. Anyone with the right training would have done the same, he insisted when the local news reporter appeared, camera in hand. This wasn't heroism. It was application of established protocols adapted to an unusual situation. Principal Hernandez disagreed. Mr. Merrick saved lives today. His quick thinking and leadership prevented what could have been a tragedy. Her voice broke with emotion. 3 of our students have severe bee allergies. Without his intervention, we might have lost them. Parents surrounded Jason, many with tears streaming down their faces. One father, whose son had experienced a serious allergic reaction, gripped Jason's hand wordlessly, unable to speak through his emotion. What you witnessed today wasn't unique to me, Jason finally addressed the group, his military bearing evident despite his exhaustion. It's what military training is designed to do. Prepare people to protect others, assess threats, and respond decisively. The uniform changes, but the mission remains the same. The school board later announced a new emergency preparedness program, with Jason reluctantly agreeing to consult. Military veterans carry valuable skills that can benefit our entire community, the announcement stated. Sophie, watching her grandfather from across the room, beamed with pride. "My grandpa was a Green Beret," she told her friends. "He says the most important thing they taught him wasn't how to fight, but how to protect." As Jason drove home that evening, he reflected on how his decades-old training had found new purpose in civilian life. The theater of operations had changed dramatically, from remote conflict zones to a school picnic, but the core values remained: assess, decide, act, protect. For the children of Oak Ridge Elementary, the day's events will become a powerful lesson about courage and community. And for the parents who witnessed a 62-year-old veteran transform from an ordinary grandfather into a decisive leader during crisis, it was a profound reminder of how military service continues to serve communities long after uniforms are retired. Have you ever witnessed veterans applying their military training in everyday emergencies? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story of courage and quick thinking inspired you, give a thumbs up and subscribe for more remarkable rescue stories that highlight the ongoing contributions of our military heroes in civilian life.